Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Allison Thompson with the Money Farm, and we have mixed trade in both grain and livestock futures this morning. And Allison, it's been a tough week in the grains, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It's been an awful week. I think everybody is starting to lose momentum on where these grain markets are going to go. Everyone seems to be pretty pessimistic. So it's been a really tough week talking with a lot of growers. But usually when everyone's panicking here at the bottom, it usually hopefully means that we're carving in a low here relatively soon. And given where our grains are trading today, maybe we have.
Yeah, let's talk about that. At least corn, though, has taken out some key support areas. Is that the one that we're most worried about in terms of trying to show some life here? And do you think we're going to see more China corn cancellations there?
Yeah, those cancellations really burnt us this week, and that definitely sent us lower. And even this morning, we made some new lows on corn. So it definitely looks the worst out of all of them. But again, we could see China continue to add to their cancellations. Usually they do it in groups. So it wasn't surprising to see another one happen yesterday, but the market sure acted like we've never seen corn cancellations before. So it definitely wasn't a good action to see. And I think the trade's aware that we could still see more to come, especially when Brazil is offering some pretty cheap prices. The question is just what China's time frame is. If they can get by through July when their new crop hits the market, then yeah, we definitely could continue to drag this thing down a bit more. But here in the U.S., though, we're early in the growing season yet. It seems a little bit early to be that bearish for the crop. I know there's good planting happening across the Corn Belt, which is great. But up here in my neck of the woods, northern Minnesota, North Dakota, we're sitting ducks. we haven't been able to turn any ground yet. Our forecasts do look better here over the next week, which is good. I think guys will be able to get in here in the next couple of weeks,
Right.
hopefully by the middle of May. But we're in an area that we're supposed to be getting a fair amount of corn acres planted, and also beans and spring wheat for that matter. And the later that gets pushed back, I think the market's going to have to realize that we are having some planting issues.
Yeah, I know that there's been a lot of frustration. The market's not really been recognizing that at all. However, open interest has been declining, so at least we don't have everybody piling onto the sell side now, right?
Exactly. And that's a good thing to point out is the technicals are oversold on all three grains. So hopefully that means we're going to be carving out a bottom here too. But another interesting part in this is open interest. Like you said, when open interest increases on a downtrend or an uptrend, it usually pushes momentum into that trend move. And actually, over the last month, we have seen open interest decrease on corn, soybeans, and wheat. So that does mean we're not adding new shorts to the market here. Guys are probably getting out more than anything. So hopefully that means that we'll quiet this thing down a bit more. And when we do get up days, I have a feeling we'll see some of that open interest step back in, and hopefully that turns our trend a bit higher.
Yeah, and I also wonder if this isn't a value level where end users are going to start to purchase, and will China come back in and maybe repurchase some of our corn at a lower price or not?
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. China knows the game that they're playing. They're very shrewd buyers. They like a good deal. So all those things could definitely end up turning this thing. Who knows when they'll step in or if they're making some small purchases on the sides. We didn't see any this week, but next week I think that report's going to be watched very closely.
Yeah, no doubt. So you said that it's too early to be bearish corn. Let's talk about the wheat market. Obviously, it's been a really bad week for all three classes of wheat, but HRW wheat, I know they've received some rain, but is it enough at this stage of the game to really make a difference in terms of production in your mind?
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. You know, a lot of the pressure came from these rains that we got earlier in the week. And some of those areas in Kansas, they were going on a year, close to a year of not even receiving an inch of rain. So them receiving an inch of rain definitely was good for them. They definitely needed it. But is it really going to affect the crop? It's really debatable at this point. And unfortunately, we're still another month away before we really start seeing some harvest reports. So it's really going to be, I think, a highly debated topic here as we go forward. But ultimately, the rains are what really has been hitting our markets. Now, this morning, we did see some dry areas miss some of those rains on the overnight. So again, we're just in a weather market, it seems.
Yeah. And wheat right now is mixed. And if we get a bounce, is it going to be any more than a dead cat bounce, correcting that oversold status? Because, man, we're at contract lows yesterday on all of these wheat
Yeah,
exchanges.
we were, and even on spring wheat, especially, we actually did close below $8, which we haven't done in over a year. So it's definitely concerning when we're down this low. But yeah, I have a feeling we might see a couple dead cat bounces. And, markets always fall at a steep V. It seems it always goes down faster than it goes up. So when this market turns, even across the board, we're probably looking at baby steps. We're taking a stairs way back up. It's not going to be a V shape like we'd all like to see. So patience is key too.
Absolutely. Soybeans are the one part of the grain complex that have actually held support. $14 on July, held the 12.50 mark on November. So that has been important, as well as the fact that soybean meal's kind of still holding together.
Yeah, soybean meal actually ended up finding some pretty good support yesterday, which was really good to see, around that 14.20 on the main contract, and actually ended up closing higher yesterday. And then this morning we are seeing a bit of support there as well. So as long as meal honestly can hold those support levels, and there too we're seeing open interest decrease in that market as well. And actually yesterday we saw an increase. So they were definitely buying back some of those meal contracts. So it's definitely a good thing, but meal's definitely been the driver of the soy complex. And as long as that can hold support, beans should remain supported as well.
Although Brazil competition is obviously a concern with their lower prices, China's been buying a lot of their product, and that could stay that way for a little while yet, don't you think?
Yeah, it definitely could. They are definitely they're cheapest on the global market for both corn and beans right now. So yeah, it definitely pressures things on the global market and doesn't look good for U.S. demand. Even domestically, there was reports that we're importing beans too. How much they actually do in the end will dictate a lot of our old crop prices as well.
Let me ask you about new crop from the perspective of the fact that we may not get all of the acres planted up in the northern plains where we were expecting the increase. There may be some PP acres, so that's going to maybe cut into not only corn and wheat, but it could cut into soybeans too, couldn't it?
Absolutely, it could. The later we get pushed back up here, I know already it seems early, and I agree it is probably a little bit early, but a lot of guys have been looking at PP and what those payments could be. And honestly, we've had really good yields the last couple of years. So these guys are looking at some pretty decent PP payments if conditions don't allow them to get in. So it's definitely on a lot of guys' minds, surprisingly. So if push comes to shove, and last year we didn't have great planting conditions, but we saw a really good rally in markets, and that got the crop planted. And I think the market's being patient this year for us specifically, because it will get those acres planted. So if we see a spring rally, it just might be later than what we saw last year. And unfortunately, guys up here are getting a little impatient with that mindset. But I think the market's well aware of what it can do in a very short period of time. And it's maybe waiting to really see what our ability is to get it planted.
Gotcha. So the cattle market got within striking distance of the contract highs again in live cattle yesterday, at least in the June. And I think we made new contract highs in some of those back months of the feeders.
Yeah.
Taking a little pause today, but the lack of cash trade direction is part of this story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the cash has been really leading these markets higher. And when we're not getting a whole lot of cash numbers or solid numbers, kind of a mixed bag all over the board, it's really hard to find that direction. So I think that's why we're trading a bit mixed today. But honestly, the fundamentals in those markets are strong. So yeah, I definitely think we could continue to see new highs. But I think the market's just being a bit patient to see what cash comes in at.
Yeah, and I know we're watching these economic reports. We had first quarter GDP yesterday, PCE this morning, and then the Fed meets next week. And so, we've got to temper the risk off and the economic concerns a little bit into this discussion, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be the big topic here next week. Absolutely, is what the economy is going to do. Are they going to raise interest rates? All these things, and we've seen them pressure our grains and even cattle too. But yeah, depending on what they do next week, could definitely have an impact. So we need to be aware of those outside markets as well.
Yeah, something to watch for sure. All right, thanks for joining us, Allison Thompson with the Money Farm, and that is Markets Now.